Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to this how to recreate the App Store tutorial series. And if you are watching this now and you haven't watched part 1 and part 2, make sure to click on the link down below. So today we're going to try to attempt finishing this application, and we're going to finish up the home screen of the App Store by first looking at what we are currently at. So our app has 4 pretty much identical cells that are horizontally scrollable like that. And if I go into the completed version of the app, we have something just a little bit differently. First thing is we have this cell here that is wider for the apps, and then it doesn't have the name labels and the other stuff below the cells. And the second thing is we have this header up here. So first, let's concentrate on how to build this cell here by simply modifying what we currently have. So going back to our code in Xcode, I'm going to run that to see where we are at so far. So just like before, 4 somewhat identical cells that are horizontal like that. And let's just change this cell here. So cell 0, cell 1, and cell 2. And first, I'm going to change the height of that cell by simply doing this. If index path dot item is equal to, I'm going to say return CG size, view frame width, and let's just do 160. So I'm going to run that to show you what that does. Okay, you see now that the cell is kind of squished. That is what we want. So that cell is a lot shorter than these cells. And let's just get rid of these labels down here and also make this cell a little bit wider. And the easiest way of doing that is to actually return a different cell altogether. And that different cell will be a subclass of category cell. Now, to do that, let's create this subclass here. So large category cell, category cell, and let's just backspace out of that for now. And here we'll do this. If index path item equals 2, let cell equals collection view DQ. Cell identifier will be large cell D index path, and this will be our large category cell. Change that to capital P, and while we're here, I'm just going to copy and paste these 2 lines, and we should be okay. Cool. So we need large cell ID like this. Private let large cell ID. And now the final remaining task is to register that class like this. And using our large cell ID, we get this app working. Now the rows still look exactly the same, but now I have a handle on how this cell should look like inside of a large category cell. So the first thing I want to do is override how wide these individual cells are in this horizontal row. And we do that very, very simply by overriding the size for item at index path method right there. So I'm going to copy and paste that in there, hit an override. And then for this, I'm going to return 200. So the cell is now going to be twice as wide, like this right here. And the second thing we want to do is to return an entirely different cell for these cells inside here. So what I mean is I'm going to also override the cell for item at index path method by going here. Let's do copy and paste. And paste that down there. And this needs an override. And okay, so I want to return a different cell instead of this this cell that is being returned called app cell right now. And I'm going to create a different class called private class. Let's see. Put some extra space down there. Class large app cell, and subclass that as the app cell. And then I will do something instead of views like that. Okay, so far nothing has changed just yet, and I want to register this cell instead. So let's do set of views here as well, and do super set of views. We'll call apps collection view, register class. This will be a large app cell, and here will be our cell ID. Let's see, large app cell ID is what we'll call it. Let's see that. Okay, and now we will need to establish that cell ID like this. It's nothing too complicated yet, and use that there. And let's see. So once I run this, it's going to return a blank cell because I'm totally overriding the setup views part of the method there. And what I mean is I'm totally blowing away this code here. So because I just want to return the image itself in there, what I mean is I just want to return this image, I'm going to use constraints instead of these recs to just fill up that entire frame. So what I mean is I'm going to first add the subview, image view, and I'm going to add constraints for that image view like this. Okay, constraints with visual format. Let's use horizontal edge to edge. This will always be this annoying property like that. This will be nil, and this will use a dictionary of v0 to image view like that. And let's see, we will copy and paste that and use v for the vertical axes as well from edge to edge. And if we run that, it will not yet work because we need to set, see, it translates auto resizing mask into constraints to false. And run that, we will hopefully get something visually appealing. Okay, so pretty good. The only thing missing now is that there's some tightness down here from the horizontal line and the image, and we fix that very easily by using 14 there, and maybe we'll just push this down like 2 pixels from that very top label. Okay, pretty good. Pretty good, right? Looks very similar to what we have here. And now the more challenging part of this tutorial is to create the actual header that is above the collection view. So collection views have cells per section and then a header on top of the section. And in this case, these are the cells for our section, and we just plop a header on the top of the collection view. So let's see, how do I want to illustrate this? First, let's register a header that we can return. And we do that by doing this, okay? Collection view, register, class, and this will be, let's just use a header class for now, and that header class will be down here. So class, header, and this will be our category cell. Let's see, let's do that for now. So let's pretend header is a subclass of category cell, and we're just registering that as our header. And kind will be UICollectionView, or UICollection of kind section header, and kind will be our header, or the ID will be our header ID. So private let header ID. And all this is saying is that we will register this class as our header. Okay, and if I run the application, nothing is going to change because we haven't really done much yet. So the first thing we need to do is actually return a view for our header. And UICollectionView delegate has this view for kind right here, this method, very, very long. And we will return that header by first using a DQ like this. So DQ, and this will be kind, this will be our header ID, and this will be a next path. So we can downcast this as a header and return it right away like that. And again, if we run this, nothing is going to show up, and don't worry, we will fix that by doing this collection view and override this layout. So header view, and let's see, so it's a reference size for header and section, and we'll just do this. Return CG size, make view frame width And height, let's just call it 150. So the moment we return a size for the header, we actually get something up here. So you notice how this best new apps is already there, and then we have blank white space. So that is the header, and this label is showing because if you click into category cell, you notice that we've hard-coded this label here. So not so bad, I hope. Somewhat straightforward, but we just have to be clever about how much code we want to reproduce. And because I'm pretty lazy about coding, I do as little as I can. Okay, not so bad. And now the tricky part is, how do we want to return this? Let's see, what do we have? Which app am I in? Okay, we want to return this horizontal scrolly thing up here. And the only difference is that this cell, or these cells here, doesn't have this category name label, and it doesn't have these labels down here. So essentially, this is a smaller version of that, and we're just going to reproduce that very simply. Okay, so the first thing to do is to get rid of this name label, and let me see how we want to do that. Okay. Well, actually, let's return some cells inside of this header first, just to make things a little bit more visually interesting. So let's do header dot app category equals app categories dot first. So what that is saying is return the first category inside of our collection view down here. And the reason why this doesn't work yet is because we are not calling collection view reload data just yet. So this is actually apps collection view. This will be reload data. And running that, we get kind of a duplicate of the first row because we're actually setting this first here as the first row, and it does the same thing, right? So nothing too tricky yet. And so similar to what we did for this cell here, we're going to override a couple of the setup parameters. So let's just do this. Okay. Okay, first, actually, let's get rid of this label down here by doing this bit. Okay, so I'm going to copy the entire bit of this large category cell. And let's see, so we need this cell ID here. So let's just do this. Let cell ID equals banner cell ID. So those are what I am referring to as banners. And let's just do this. Cell ID, we're fine there. And then it's going to return a different size. And now we have this app cell class yet again. So to make it a little easier to read, I'm going to call it banner cell. And in there, I'm going to get rid of these constraints. And running that, hopefully we'll get something a little more interesting. Okay. Okay. All right, good. So the reason why it's crashing is because we have not registered this banner cell to the collection view. And let's do that instead of views. Like that. And we'll do apps collection view, register class, banner cell, and this will be our cell ID, which is this right here. Now we get this, right? So we're just one step closer, and now we need to remove this best new apps label up there. And I'm just going to command click into that. And I'm just going to actually copy and paste. Let's see, what do we need? So I need these two lines to set up my data source and delegate. And now I am going to need none of these lines here. So let's go back And here's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to expand the entire collection view by very simply doing that. So essentially, I'm just going to add the subview, add the collection view into the cell, and then expand it horizontally like that, and then vertically like that. We'll run that and see what we get. So that's good, good. Okay, and because I no longer need the other subviews being added, I'm just going to wipe out add subviews. Okay. So far, so good. And let's see. The next thing I want to do is I want to wipe out the margins on the left. So what I mean is this is actually hugging the entire left side there. And the margins on the right. So there's actually a white margin there. And the way I do that is to override yet another method. And it's the top one, which says margins. So it's basically insets for a section. And we'll do return UI edge insets make all zeros. And run that again. So pretty good. And let's see. Okay. So now we want to copy in what those banners exactly, or what they are exactly. And I'm going to go into Finder and say, okay, these banner images right here. Let's see, let me just close this. So this banner image, this one, those are the 4 banner images. And I'm going to copy, or actually open up the assets catalog, paste that in there, that. Now we have our banners, and we're going to use those banners to fill up this category there. Okay, now hopefully all this is making sense so far. And the question is, how do we populate those banners inside of this cell here? And the other question is, we don't actually want to duplicate this row right here. We actually want a different category. And what I mean is, this is not actually this category, but a separate category on its own. And that category is actually what is inside of our REST API. So I'm going back to Chrome, and at this URL, we are provided with a banner category, and that is the category that is above. So let's parse this into our application by using some Json serialization. Okay, going back to our models file, we will create a container object called featured apps. And this will subclass as object, and then it'll have 2 properties. One is called banner category, and this will be an app category. And then we will have a second category called app. Let's see, categories. So, okay, second property called app category. Let's say autocorrect. All right. And there we go. And basically what I'm doing is, instead of just parsing out app categories out of our JSON API there, like that, we're going to parse the entire data structure by doing this. Okay, like featured apps equals featured apps, and featured apps set values for dictionary will be this JSON value there, and downcast that to a string any object dictionary. And then in here, we'll need to call completion handler with this object instead of this array of categories. So if we do that, remove that, and now we need to actually change this parameter up here to be a featured apps class. Okay. So what is it doing? Okay, so we actually need to remove the array brackets as well. Cool, so far so good. And like what we did in here, we need to override set value like this. And if key is equal to categories, we need to instantiate this app categories up here. By doing that, equals app category, like that. And we do this for dictionary inside of value as an array. So this is a string, any object, like that, and then let app category equal app category, set values for that dictionary, and then app categories will append this new app category. Like that. And then we should be fine. So this will be that, I believe. And now, here's complaining. So as, and here we'll say else if key is equal to this banner category object, we'll say banner category. Okay, so banner category is a new banner category. Let's see, app category. And then we'll use the dictionaries inside of value. So value as string to any object dictionary, like that. The final case is to just call super. Like so. And we build, and we need to fix a couple of things. So first is to actually call this featured apps. So basically this method that we just modified up here with this featured apps business is going to do this now. So let's just do this, app categories, and create a new featured apps property up here. And we'll just set it when we get it back from our server. That. And running into that, we'll see what we get. Okay, so everything looks the same. And the only difference is that I now have access to that banner category. So what I mean is I can do featured apps banner category and see what we get. Okay. And that looks good, except for we are now having this top and bottom business. And let's just do this. Okay. So we'll actually want to return a much larger size for these cells. So, and also I want to remove this corner edge that's going on right there. And I'm going to do that by saying image view dot layer dot corner radius equals 0. Run that, and we'll get 0 like that. So that's good. And let me see. So I'm also going to change the size by saying this. Okay, frame dot width divided by 2 plus 50. Okay. Okay. And now the final thing that we need to change is to make it hug the entire top and bottom of the edge. And we'll just do that by removing the -32 right there. Okay, so this looks a little bit tall, and we modify that by changing this to roughly 120 for the reference size for the header. And that'll give us something that's a little shorter And that looks pretty good, I would say. And I guess while we're at it, let's add a border to these images by doing this. So let's go to this banner cell up here and do image view layer dot border color equals UI, let's see, UI color white. So I always use a value of 0.5 here. You need to use CG color like that. And then you need to specify the layers border width of 0.5. See what that gives us. Okay. So if I bump this up here, you can see that this has a white border like that. And the rest of them also have a have a black border, I mean. Okay. And so that looks pretty good. Why don't we change the title to actually be the correct word? So title equals featured apps. Running that, we get the title at the very top that now says featured apps. And upon getting the data back from our REST API, we populate the application like this. So that looks pretty good. And let's see. So the couple of things that we're missing right now is the UI tab bar at the bottom down here. And then we're also missing this very unique feature of the App Store, which is that these icons actually snap in place. So you never see a scrolling view that kind of just goes on and on and on. So what I mean is it just snaps to the center of the app right here. And I'm not going to go into detail on how that is done, but if you go ahead and download the project down below of the completed source code, you'll be able to get the exact code that reproduces this effect, only if you're interested. And also I'm going to include inside there the code that generates this tab bar down here. So make sure to check the code out. Hopefully this wasn't too bad, and the main thing that I wanted to illustrate with this app is to reuse the cells for your code inside of your collection view that you've already created. And this can help you avoid regenerating a lot of duplicate code, and it makes your code a lot cleaner, easier to maintain. The next thing I wanted to highlight is that the header for your collection view is a very, very important component. And what it actually helped us do in this app is to avoid the unnecessary calculations of which cell or which app category goes inside of which cell. So sometimes what you'll do is you'll actually generate some kind of additional top cell for your collection view, and then you have to like somehow merge this data in, or you have to attempt to compensate for this offset of the top cell, and then change the bottom cell to like -1. And you don't really want to do that. And the solution is to just implement a header like this. And the other solution is to implement a footer down below if you need a different view at the very bottom. Okay, hopefully you liked this video. Probably a little bit longer than I hoped, but it definitely gets the message across. So make sure to like, subscribe, and comment down below if you have any questions. All right, enjoy your day and goodbye.